The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Jesus spoke to his disciples, "As the days of Noah were, so will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in those days before the flood they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day Noah entered the ark, and they knew nothing until the flood came and swept them all away. So too will be the coming of the Son of Man. Then two will be in the field, one will be taken and one will be left. Two women will be grinding meal together, one will be taken and one will be left. Keep awake, therefore, for you do not know on what day your Lord is coming. But understand this, if the owner of the house had known in what part of the night the thief was coming, he would have stayed awake and would not have let his house be broken into. Therefore, you also must be ready, for the Son of Man is coming at an unexpected hour." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord.
Today, the Universal Church begins this great season of Advent. Advent means arrival. It really is a chance for us to prepare well for the greatest event that ever took place in human history, which was the birth of Christ, the Incarnation. We join the people in the Old Testament because they waited a long time for the Messiah to come. And in fact, in the 4 weeks, we'll read from the prophet Isaiah all of these messianic prophecies that were given to the people about something that would happen in the future that would be transformative. But they waited generations upon generations until the time had fully come. So we enter into that time of expectation, time of waiting and preparation for the birth of Christ. But secondly, Advent also is a time for us now, because the arrival of the Lord for most of us came in baptism. And when we received our First Communion and our children are being prepared for First Communion, then Christ entered into our lives in a very real way, and still does today, because every time we gather like we are here, this is a great celebration of the arrival of the Lord. The bread and wine are brought up, and the prayers are prayed over them. Christ is here. So in a sense, our whole week leading up to Sunday can be considered a time of Advent, preparation. The question is, for all of us, me included, do I prepare well for the Sunday celebration coming up? On Monday of that week, I read the Gospel, so that I don't come here cold and having not prepared and hear the Gospel for the first time, but rather I've already started to prepare and then pray over the Gospel. How does it apply to me? And then deliberately, intentionally, throughout the week, offer various acts of sacrifice, as you all do, for your children, for others, and deliberately say, I'm offering this to the Lord. Even our sufferings through the week, we can join in that offering, because when the gifts are brought up on Sunday of bread and wine, we bring our offerings as well throughout the week, so that there's this great offering together with Christ to the Father in worship. And that's why we were created, to worship God and give him glory, not just now, but eternally, forever and ever. So that's the sense in which Advent really is not hypothetical for us today or some abstract concept, but really, truly part of our lives. When that happens, when we deliberately prepare for the Eucharist each Sunday so that we enter into it, then the liturgy becomes alive and vibrant, because we've already begun to celebrate. We're all part of this. Myself, yourself, we're called to make the liturgy as vibrant as we can so that we give proper praise and worship to God. And when we do that, something else amazing happens. our internal house, our soul, becomes well-ordered. Divisions, infighting that we can have in our own interior life can be, in some ways, put to rest. And that's where Isaiah talks about these swords and plowshares, these spears. Now, we can internalize that and say, have these swords and these spears been transformed into plowshares and instruments of cultivation in my interior life? Or am I still very much divided interiorly, my intellect against my will, my passions disordered, addictions or other things? Rather, as we prepare for the Sunday liturgy, in prayer and reading the scriptures, God enters our soul and things fall into place. We become more peaceful because God is here healing us interiorly. And that is meant to be part of our preparation as well. When that happens, then the house of the Lord, this house, this parish, also becomes well ordered, so that proper worship is given to God, and we bring that well-ordered soul to our liturgy. Now that is important because in the first reading, Isaiah says, "The days will come when the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest of the mountains." Now again, we can take that as to mean, what is the highest mountain in our life? What is the highest priority today for us? For Catholics, for Christians, it's the proper praise and worship of God, which is why we were created. Isaiah wants that to be part of our life because he says, many people will come and say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may teach us his ways, and we may walk in his paths." When does that really happen? When many, many people say, "Come, let us go up to the mountain of the Lord," which is really this house here, this church. It's the season of Christmas. And it's very important when people come in Christmas, because they do come streaming from all over, it's important for us as Catholics to welcome them and say, "You're part of our family." But to do that, we need to be well ordered ourselves, and this house to be well ordered. So that's the preparation of Advent, and a real important preparation because we get this chance every year when people come, maybe for the first time in a long time, to our house of worship, and we're there to welcome them, and they really feel the difference. They see this is a vibrant community, this is a welcoming community, and I want to come back. And that would give God right praise. Finally, Advent also looks forward to the second coming of Christ, and that's part of our readings today. In fact, our readings today don't start at the beginning, the events leading up to the birth. They start at the end, at the second coming of Christ. If you read the first reading in the Gospel, they're all about the second coming. Now that's very deliberate, because we need to set a goal in order to make the proper preparation to get to that goal. And this is not something that's like a foreign concept to us. It's important to see and vision where we want to end up before we take the steps to get there. Athletes, for example, will visualize winning the race, crossing the finish line, getting the prize. And that vision that's in their hearts will order everything they do. Training, proper diet, proper rest, all of that because they want that goal of winning the race. Let's prepare now to make that happen in Advent. We see the end. It's presented to us right here. How are we going to get there, and what's the steps to take? This visioning that the readings do, we're also called to do as a parish and as a family of parishes. So I've written a pastoral letter to the whole family, all 7 churches, setting out the vision of where we want to be as a family of parishes. And the vision statement is, after a long time of prayer and input from all of you, we had questionnaires and focus groups. The vision statement is, first of all, welcoming communities, encountering Christ, sharing faith, caring for all. And that's what we really want to aspire to. Welcoming communities, because when we welcome people, we welcome Christ. Encountering Christ, we're going to have all kinds of opportunities to encounter Christ. We have Advent missions, we have Alpha, charisms, all kinds of workshops. So it's a busy time throughout the year for encountering Christ. And then finally, sharing our faith and caring for all. So I encourage you to read that letter. Now, it was emailed to everyone we have email addresses for, but for those who don't, there is a hard copy as you walk out. I encourage you to take it and read it because it gives you a whole summary of where we've come from the beginning of our family parishes and where we want to end up. That's all part of Advent, preparation for the welcoming of Christ, welcoming each other, and bringing this community to where God wishes it to be. A loving community, caring for all, welcoming. So God bless you as you begin this Advent season. Let's keep each other in our prayers as we prepare for the birth of Christ now and our worship of him eternally.